So today is a very, very happy, very special day for all of us. Actually, the last few Mondays somehow have all been very special. I feel like I've been hitting the jackpot. First, it was the first day of Kartik, fell on a Monday, and then Shilashita Maharaj's appearance day fell on a Monday. Now today, Govardhan Puja. It's also falling on a Monday. So Govardhan, very yes, Chintamani saying we hit the jackpot with Krishna consciousness. That's true. So Govardhan Puja, this is very happy, very, very special, very important day for us. And for many reasons. There are so many wonderful lessons connected with this Leela. What's coming to my mind at this moment is the theme of confidence in the Lord's protection, which is one of the limbs of Sharanagati, of surrender. You know, this is something beautifully illustrated in this Leela. In there's a beautiful chapter in Loving Search for the Lost Servant, which many of you have read, of course, Lord of the Cows, where Srila Maharaj talks about this pastime, and at the conclusion he makes a very, very beautiful point. He says that if we go to leave behind the course of our general duty in this world, then naturally some negative reaction may come to us. You know, if we are leaving aside our ordinary obligations or duties for the sake of the central duty, for the sake of Krishna, then there will more likely than not be some reaction from the environment, some consequence will come from the environment. And then he says, but if we are careful to try to read the order of Krishna, if we try to take shelter of Krishna under Govardhan Hill, then nobody can trouble us there. No? So we see in the Govardhan Leela pastime, the Brajabasis, they have to suffer because they listen to Krishna. Because Krishna was very naughty, and he told them to disrespect Indra, essentially, you know. And actually, it's very funny because Krishna preached a kind of atheistic conception, karma mimamsa, and he told the Brajabasis, oh, karma is all in all. You know, what does this Indra have to do? What do the devas have to do with anything? You know, everything is controlled by karma. So if we, you know, our concern is directly with Govardhan Hill. You know, we are cowherds, and our livelihood is through the milk products of the cow. And the Govardhan Hill supplies us so many things that we need for the cow, you know, water and grasses and shade, etc. So really our concern is directly with Govardhan. Who cares about Indra? You know, who cares about any god, you know? And so through this like clever philosophical presentation, Krishna convinces them to leave aside their traditional custom of worshiping Indra, and instead to worship Govardhan Hill. So they listen to Krishna, and then what happens? They get into trouble. So that's a lesson right there. No, get ready for a life of trouble. If you go to attend to the absolute call, if you go to heed Krishna's clarion call. But then what happens? Indra, he's very angry because he feels he's been disrespected, and he calls for his rain clouds and thunder and lightning, etc. And they're devastating the Vrindavan area. And then what do? The Brajabasis, they go to Krishna. Krishna, please help us. You know, you told us to do this. And now Indra is very angry with us. So please, you protect us, you take care of us, So this mood of taking shelter of the Lord and confidence that he will take care of us if we take shelter of him, that is exemplified in this Leela. And there are many very beautiful, very interesting points about this Leela. And another very prominent point is the contrast between Aishwarya, opulence, grandeur, power, and the aprakrita mood, the simplicity, the sweetness and the simplicity of the Vrindavan mood, where all of these, where Krishna's divinity is underground, it's all hidden, and everything is cloaked in simplicity and sweetness. So it's a very interesting contrast in this pastime, because you have Indra, who's this great, powerful Deva. He's the king of the Devas, and he's a very powerful and opulent person. And he's seeing this Krishna, who looks like a simple teenage cowherd boy, and he's coming up against Krishna, thinking he can defeat him with his power. But actually, Krishna is the one with more power, although he's presenting himself in this very simple way. And he's defeating not through a demonstration of power, but through sweetness. And there's this very beautiful verse, which Srila Sridhar Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is summarizing this pastime. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj talks about it in Loving Search for the Lost Servant. I'd just like to read that verse. Deve varshati yagya viplava rusha vajashma varshani lai sidat pala pashu striyatma sharanam jishtvanu kamputsmayam udpadyaika kadena shailam abulo lilo chilinjam yata bibrad goshtamapan mahendra madabid priyanna injo gavam. Indra became angry when his sacrifice was disrupted, and thus he caused rain and hail to fall on Gokul, accompanied by lightning and powerful winds, all of which brought great suffering to the cowherds, animals, and women there. When Lord Krishna, who is by nature always compassionate, saw the condition of those who had only him as their shelter, he smiled broadly and lifted Govardhan Hill with one hand, just as a small child picks up a mushroom to play with it. Holding up the hill, he protected the cowherd community. May he, Govinda, the Lord of the cows and the destroyer of Indra's false pride, be pleased with us. And there's this beautiful play on words here in the last line, where Krishna is referred to as Indro Gavam. And Indra, the word Indra, it actually means something like a ruler, indicates one with power and position. And so Indra is actually a title. And so what's very, very charming here is that Indra Gavam is referring to Krishna, meaning Gava's cow. So Krishna here is being referred to as the Indra of cows. Krishna, who is Krishna? He's just the Lord of the cows, and this great, powerful ruler of the heavens with this almighty strength and opulence. He's coming with this great demonstration of strength, but he's defeated by who? By this Lord of the cows. This Indra Gavam. Oh, very, very charming expression here. And also this expression, how in this very effortless way, when the Brajabasis come and ask him for shelter, like a child going to pick up. It's not like he's making a great demonstration of strength, but just in this very simple way, nonchalant way, like a child picking up a toy, he goes to pick up that Govardhan hill and holds it on the pinky of his left hand. And then we also hear different details about that pastime during that time, when for 7 days, right, 7 days and 7 nights, Krishna's holding up that hill, and we hear how the cowherds, the other cowherds, they're worried. This is the power of Jnana Shanya Bhakti. That they're thinking Krishna can't do it alone, and so some of them are the cowherds. They're taking their sticks. They're helping him, like, and then later they're very proud. Oh, he couldn't do it by himself. We helped him, And some of the ladies, they're thinking, oh, he's gonna lose his strength, and they're putting butter into his mouth, and also it's mentioned how sometimes Krishna, he's observing the beauty of the cowherd girls, and he's getting distracted. The hill is wobbling a little bit, So the whole Leela is so charming, and I always think of it as like an emblem of the Aprakrita Leela of Krishna. It wonderfully exemplifies all of the what is the essence of the Aprakrita Leela. For those of you who aren't familiar with that expression here, I think most of you probably are, but the word Aprakrita is very important. The word Prakrita means mundane or material, and so Aprakrita refers to that which appears to be mundane, but it is not. And this is described as the highest plane of truth, the highest expression of the Lord, where he is in his form as Krishna. He is hiding his divinity, and sweetness and love and beauty hold the upper hand always. So that is the nature of Krishna's Aprakrita Leela, and that is demonstrated very beautifully in this Govardhan Leela. And in connection to that, we can mention how in our mat, this Leela is just so, Govardhan Leela is so important for us. But in this connection, we can mention in our mat, in our Shri Chaitanya Sarasama in Navadvip, Bengal, we have, our Gurudev had a beautiful diorama put up right at the front entrance of the mat. And what's interesting about that is that Gurudev first, he had one shloka put there, inscribed there, one verse in relief. Pujala Ragapat Gaurva Bange, Matala Harijana Kirtana Range, Pujala Ragapat Gaurva Bange, which is saying that we are doing puja, we are doing worship to the higher plane of free spontaneous devotion, which is beyond rules and regulations. And we ourselves, we are doing puja to that, we are worshiping that on a higher level, and we ourselves are remaining in a lower plane. We are observing we are observing some vidimar, we are observing some regulated scriptural practice, and we are giving our main attention to kirtan at present. And so Gurudev had this verse inscribed, and then later this diorama of the Govardhan Leela, showing Krishna holding up the Govardhan hill, with all the cowherds there underneath. And then beneath that, there's a Sankirtan party. And what's very interesting, I heard from Madhusudan Maharaj, our Gurudev's secretary, is that Gurudev, he didn't plan for these two things to appear side by side, but it came out like that. And then later on, he realized it was a perfect, that the image was a perfect demonstration of what this verse is saying, that plane of Vrindavan, Govardhan, that mood of sweetness and simplicity, we are not imitating that, we are worshiping that on a higher level, while we ourselves are remaining in a more humble plane of practice. So Gurudev, he expressed how this happened mystically, how that image came out naturally as an expression of that verse. He wasn't planning it like that, but it happened like that. So very, very, very beautiful, charming pastime. Govardhan is also very significant because it is beside, in the ontology of the spiritual sky, Radha Kund is described as the highest plane of existence. And Govardhan is one step before that. And this is something described in the Upadeshamrita of Srila Rupa Goswami. And so for there in particular, I think it is the 9th verse, the ontology of the spiritual plane is described. Vaikunta janito vadamadupuri rasotsavad vrindavanyam urada pani ramana tatapi govardhana radha kunda mihapi gulokapate radha kunda mihapi gulokapate koryad asya. I can't remember the rest right now, but this verse very often amongst the 11 verses of Upadeshamrita, this one is particularly quoted by our gurus because in the systematic way, it's describing the gradation within the spiritual sky. So it's saying that, starting out saying that Mathura is higher than Vaikuntha. Why? Because the birth pastimes took place in Mathura. It is presenting the gradation on the basis of rasa. And so in Vaikuntha, there's no birth lila. Lord Vishnu, he's just eternally manifest. So he cannot have the relationship, he cannot have Vatsalya Ras there. There's no relationship, no parental relationship possible. There's no pastimes of birth. So although apparently it appears very astonishing, apparently it appears more impressive. This is how, like in a stereotypical way, we tend to think it is more impressive if God does not have parents, right? That the Lord is just eternally present. This is a stereotyped way of thinking. But on the basis of rasa, on the basis of divine feeling, on the basis of loving exchange, then actually something is missing there because that relationship is not available. And so this is being pointed out by Srila Rupa Goswami in Upadeshamrita, that Mathura, where Krishna has birth pastimes, that's on a higher level than Vaikuntha actually. So this verse is starting out like that. Mathura is higher than Vaikuntha because the Janma Lila, the birth Lila took place there. Then higher than Mathura is Vrindavan because the rasa dance took place, Krishna's dance with their Braja Gopis took place there. And then Govardhan is a place where more intimate pastimes took place. So Govardhan is more exclusive, higher than Vrindavan. And then finally Radha Kund is the highest place because the most exclusive, most intimate pastimes took place there. So for this reason, it has been mentioned many times by our gurus, by our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It has been mentioned many times that their consideration is that if Radha Kund is the highest place, then we will stay one step below that. So their expression was that our gurus, our gurus will stay in Radha Kund and render more exclusive service there, and we will stay in Govardhan. And we heard our Gurudev mention this many times, that this is the ideal of our gurus, that we will stay in Govardhan, we will wake very early in the morning, we will go to Kushum Sarovar, collect flowers there, then we will go to Radha Kund, render service there, and then at the end of the day return to Govardhan, take rest, and then again early in the morning arise. So that was the aspiration that they expressed. And there are different incidents that are we've heard connected with that. Very famously, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he expressed in his final days that he wanted to spend his last days in Govardhan, and he instructed one of his disciples. What was his name? I don't know if anyone can remember there. What was his name? I can't remember.
Balaram.
Yes, Balaram. Thank you. Yes, Balaram. Exactly. So he instructed this Balaram Panda, can you construct a cottage for me, and I'll come and spend my final days there. And that never took place. Actually, there wasn't time, but we hear that on the morning that he left, that night, Balaram had a vision that Saraswati Thakur came before him in this very, like this mood of divine madness, and said to him, Balaram, I have come, Balaram. And that vision, he wasn't sure it was a dream or that Saraswati Thakur had personally appeared, but it was so vivid that morning he immediately went, and Balaram went, and he was in Govardhan, and he sent a telegram to Saraswati Thakur's disciples in Calcutta, where Saraswati Thakur had been spending his last days, and asked them, inquired, how is Prabhupada? Is he okay? What's happening? And they sent back the news that he had just left the world that morning. And so in recognition of that, our Gurudev, he named our guest house in Govardhan, at our Govardhan temple. Srila Gurudev named the guest house Sri Dayita Das Seva Kunj, Dayita Das being the internal name of Srila Saraswati Thakur. And so Gurudev saw it as as the place where Saraswati Thakur, could continue his service. Everything our Gurudev and Param Gurudev did. And Gurudev himself mentioned this, that the names he chose are always perfect. And because Guru Maharaj is giving the inspiration, it is so perfect. Shri Dayita Das Seva Kunj. And I've heard that when the guest house was being built, Gurudev mentioned that he'd already chosen the name, but he waited until the last moment to announce it, because he said others will take that name, because it is such a perfect name. And Gurudev also, he expressed that aspiration a number of times, that he expressed he wanted to spend his last days in Govardhan. And for that reason, Srila Charja Maharshi had a Pushpa Samadhi for Gurudev built there. And of course, it physically, in his time, he wasn't ever able to do that. But it was very dear, very, very close to his heart. And there, I've told this story before, but there was one incident with Gurudev. It was 2008. It was the last time when he visited Govardhan, and there was it was a very mystical exchange that he had with two of our devotees there, Shrileka Didi and Asha Purna. And there was one morning where they went in and they just to pay their obeisances, to offer their respects, and there was no one else around. Maybe one or two servitors were there, but they went in, they paid their obeisance, and as they sat up, Gurudev looked at them and he said, "Tomorrow, very early in the morning, we will go with Guru Maharaj. We will go to Kusham Sarovar. We will pick flowers there. Then we will go to Radha Kund and do our service there." And he looked at them completely seriously and told this, and they were completely astonished and looking behind their shoulders, who's Gurudev talking to? And then they realized he was in this meditation, and he was, he was extending some special mercy to them in that moment. So, for us, these are things that we talk about and we hear about. But for our gurus, this was really a reality. This was something very tangible and meaningful for them. And Govardhan, also Raghunath Das Goswami, he is known as our Prayojana Acharya, who has shown us our highest ideal in life. He expressed very, very deep affinity and hankering for the service and shelter of Govardhan. And Mahaprabhu himself personally gave a Govardhan Shila to Raghunath Das Goswami, which is something very significant, and again showing the importance of Govardhan within our line. And also at the time when Mahaprabhu, and this is something Gurudev would point out, at the time when Mahaprabhu gave a Govardhan Shila to Raghunath, he instructed him to see this Shila as Krishna himself, which is significant because actually Govardhan has two aspects. In the same way that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has his aspect as the Supreme Lord, and also has an aspect of being in the mood of a devotee, in the mood of Radharani. So also with Govardhan, there are two aspects there. There is the devotee side, and we see some places in the scriptures, there is some beautiful glorification of Govardhan as the best of the servitors of the Lord. In particular, there's a beautiful verse spoken by the Braja Gopis, glorifying Govardhan as being the best devotee. Govardhan is supplying so much to enhance the Lord's Leela. There are, hidden caves where intimate pastimes can take place. There's sweet waters, there's grasses, there's trees and fruits, etc. So Govardhan is offering so much service. And this is something that is celebrated by the other devotees of Krishna. There's also one beautiful verse which is describing how different aspects of Govardhan, they can be seen as ecstatic symptoms, like the streams or like tears coming from the eyes, like along these lines. So we see different places where this aspect of Govardhan is celebrated as being a devotee of Krishna. So that is one side of Govardhan. However, Govardhan also has the aspect of being non-different from Krishna. And this is how we are serving Govardhan. This is how we are approaching Govardhan. We are putting the emphasis on that. And Gurudev would cite as the precedent for that, that Mahaprabhu himself gave that instruction and vision to Raghunath, and he gave Raghunath Das Goswami the Govardhan Shila and also the Gunja Mala, these red berries, and he told him, consider this Govardhan Shila to be non-different from Krishna, and this Gunja Mala to be Srimati Radharani. So this was Mahaprabhu's instruction, and this is how we are worshipping Govardhan in our line. And also another point there, which always strikes me, is that, which is significant, is that Mahaprabhu, he gave this Govardhan Shila to Raghunath. But what Gurudev pointed out, what Raghunath felt that signified was that Mahaprabhu was giving him to the shelter of Govardhan. Normally from a material point of view, if something is in our possession, we think of ourselves as the owner of that. But Raghunath's feeling was just the opposite, that he is my owner, and that I'm being given his shelter. That was his consideration. And Raghunath, he had very deep feeling for Govardhan. And there's one beautiful, in particular, one very beautiful prayer, Govardhanavas Partana Dashakam, where he's praying for residents close to Govardhan, praying for the shelter of Govardhan. There's some of the verses are very high. There's one verse in particular which is very nice and very suitable for ourselves. And we heard Gurudev quoted a few times, Nirupadi Karunena begins like that, where Raghunath Das Goswami, he's praying to Govardhan, saying, I am the most fallen of the fallen, there's no reason why you should accept me. I am very lowly, very fallen. However, my master, your beloved master, Sri Shachinandan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave me to you. And so therefore you have to accept me. On my own merit, there's no reason why you should accept me. You may have no desire to accept me. However, because I've been given to you by your Lord and Master, then you must accept me. You must take me. And Gurudev, he quoted that once on that last visit when he was in Vrindavan and Govardhan, and he was saying, because we have connection with Guru Maharaj, then we have so much wealth. We have many guardians. Where can we find those prayers? They have been published. I'll find it. They have been published on the Gaudiya Darshan site, and also on the Prema Dharma website. I can find them. Why the website isn't working? So, this is a very beautiful angle of vision. We ourselves, we have beautiful and also realistic. We ourselves, we have no qualification, but we have connection with such great gurus, and by their mercy, then we may have something. I think I've got it here. Here it is. I'll put the link. And the refrain in this verse, in this composition, Nija Nikata Nivasam Dehi Govardhanatam. Please, Govardhan, give me some shelter close to you. Give me some place close to you. And I have this one verse, it's the 10th verse here. Nirupadi Kurunena Shishachi Nandanena Tvai Kapati Shatopi Tvad Priyanarpitosmi Iti Kalu Mama Yogya Tam Agrinam Nija Nikata Nivasam Dehi Govardhana Tvam. Although I am insincere and deceitful, I have been given to you by your dear Shishachi Nandam, who is unconditionally merciful. So please do not judge whether I am qualified or unqualified, and give me a dwelling near you, O Govardhan. I'll share this link here in our chat. Okay. And Govardhan is very significant for us because it represents, as we were discussing in the beginning, the sweetness of Vrindavan, Govardhan, everything about the Aprakrita Leela is represented in the Govardhan mood. And and this is contrasted by the mood of worship of the Shalagram Shilas, Shalagram Shilas, which are representing Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu. There is a great deal of strictness involved in that worship. But the worship of Govardhan is very different. Govardhan is the worship of Govardhan is very accommodating, Govardhan is very magnanimous, extremely merciful and simple. There's a mood of simplicity there. The worship of the Shalagram, just like we can make some contrast to highlight the nature of Govardhan, the mood of Govardhan. Gurudev, when our Gurudev was asked once, what do you think about us worshipping Shalagram Shila? Gurudev, he responded, I don't feel qualified to worship Shalagram Shila. No. But on the other hand, when it came to Govardhan, his mood was very different. And there were different occasions we heard, where he said different things. Or one devotee asked Gurudev, what should I feed him? What should I serve? And Gurudev said, you can feed him biscuits and chocolate. You can offer him biscuits and chocolate every day. And there was another devotee who asked Gurudev for some advice on worshipping Govardhan Shila. And Gurudev said, when you cook something, you put it before Giriraj, Govardhan, and say, you eat, Giriraj. Like that, you eat. He also mentioned how once he observed on the parikrama path around Govardhan that there was one man who had a sweet shop off of the path. And he saw that his custom every day was that just when he was opening his shop, he would take a tray of his freshly made sweets, and he would stand there in front of the Govardhan hill, and just stand there and offer it like that, and then he went on with his business, But every day he'd start like that, presenting a tray to the Govardhan hill. And Gurudev commented, I like this style. I like this style. So it's a very extraordinary thing, because Govardhan is simultaneously the place of our highest aspiration, as we mentioned, is the place where our gurus aspire to serve. But at the same time, the mood is extremely magnanimous and generous, accommodating, sweet, and simple. So very extraordinarily wonderful thing. And our mat was established on the Govardhan conception. You know, our Param Gurudev, our grandfather Guru, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he began the mat with Govardhan Shilas, which he collected from Govardhan personally, and he brought to Navadvip. And that was how our mat started. That was how he began, with the worship of Govardhan. And later, by the Lord's own will, Shalagram Shila also came there. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was very hesitant about accepting that. And it was really by the desire of the Shalagram Shila himself that he forcefully came to our mat, But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was reluctant to accept that service, that worship, but rather the emphasis has always been on the worship of Govardhan. So it is very, very central to our conception, aspiration, mood of worship and service. And lastly, we can remember one more beautiful gem that we've heard from our gurus, and that is that Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he described one talk of Saraswati Thakur's, which he described as giving a revolutionary conception of Govardhan. And the circumstances of that talk were also very interesting. It was what was the year? I don't think I can remember, but it was during it was just before Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada took initiation formally within the Gaudiya Mat from Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur. And he attended, there's a talk of Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada where he's remembering this meeting, and he participated in a Braja Mandal Parikrama. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was also present. They hadn't actually met each other at that time, but they were both present there for that Parikrama. And Saraswati Thakur was leading the gathering for some days, and then he was going to leave from the Vrindavan area, and leave the other sannyasis to lead the programs. So it was on his very last evening there in Vrindavan last evening of Saraswati Thakur, and he planned to give a lecture that evening. And so it was announced that there was a parikrama that was a special parikrama that was going to take place, that was connected with the Leela, Shishi, Radha Krishna Leela. So everyone had this option to either participate in this parikrama or to stay behind and hear this talk, which would be the last talk Saraswati Thakur gave before leaving the parikrama. And so we hear, surprisingly, that most of the devotees, they left to go on this parikrama, and there were only about a dozen who stayed behind for the talk. And two of those persons were Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Swami Maharaj. And afterwards, Swami Maharaj, it was right after that Swami Maharaj, he received initiation, maybe in Allahabad, or what was Allahabad, and now it's Prayag again. And Saraswati Thakur, he was pleased at the time because he remembered Swami Maharaj had been present at that talk, and he was one of the few who stayed behind, and he made a comment like, "Oh, he likes to hear," he was pleased. and you hear in this recording that Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Swami Maharaj, they're remembering this meeting and they're kind of chuckling, and Swami Maharaj, he says something like, I thought to myself, why shall I go? Just for some eye exercise, something like that, that it will be better to stay and hear Prabhupada speak. So those are the circumstances surrounding this special talk. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj, this is like 50 years later or something, he still remembered what the talk was about. and he said that in that talk, Saraswati Thakur gave revolutionary explanation of Govardhan. And so he gave this explanation, wonderful explanation. The word go has different meanings. One meaning is cow, and Vardhan means increasing. So one meaning of Govardhan is increasing cows. And so he made this point that the livelihood of the Brajabasis is surrounding, the cows, is based on the cows and the milk products that come from the cows. And so breeding cows is very central to what they do. And so he pointed out that when they go to breed cows, to make more cows, they only consider a potent bull and a suitable female, and they're not, what I'm saying is that they're not considering like a high cow or low cow. They're not considering any type of like caste social discrimination when it comes to breeding the cows. They're just seeing like is there potency here? Can we make more cows? Can we breed more cows? That's their only criteria. And so Saraswati Thakur said that this is how we want to spread Krishna consciousness. That if somebody is receptive, then Krishna will appear there, and we have to distribute in that type of mood without any type of discrimination about who is qualified or unqualified, fit or unfit, but who has a receptive heart, then they are qualified to receive this. And he also he cited this beautiful verse of that Srila Rupa Goswami includes in one of his verse collections, Akrishti, I can't remember right now, but it's glorification of the holy name of Krishna. And then the significant part here is the second two lines. No diksham, nacha satkriyam, nacha purushcharjam, manadikshate, mancho yam, anasas prageva falati, Shri Krishna namatmaka, saying that when Krishna wants to appear somewhere, when the name of Krishna, the divine name of Krishna wants to appear somewhere, he will appear. He doesn't wait for any formalities. He doesn't wait for the diksha, initiation. He doesn't wait for any type of preparatory or purificatory procedures prior to that. He doesn't wait for anything, but when he wants to give himself, when he feels, oh, here is some fertile ground, here is some fertile soil, then he's appearing there. So he made this point, that we want to spread Krishna consciousness with this type of broad and non-discriminating mood. And that is the Govardhan mood, and that is the mood of our gurus. So it's a very, very happy day. Many very significant points for us to consider on this day. Another interesting point Srila Sridhar Maharaj makes, and it's published in Loving Search, how that a part of the infinite is also infinite. That if we are looking at one small Govardhan Shila, we may think, oh, this is just a small rock, but that small, manifestation, that is also an expression of the infinite. One part of the infinite is also infinite. And he also speaks about how, there are so many possibilities surrounding everything. We cannot just take everything at face value. We can also just mention, there's like particular pastimes that took place in our Gurudev's life, connected with Govardhan Shilas, and what we're remembering now is the Govardhan Shila that appeared in our Govardhan temple, because actually Gurudev wasn't planning to, thank you, Chinmoy Prabhu. He's posted this shloka here. Akrishti kuchacheta sam sumanasam uchatanam chammasam achandalam amuka loka sulabho vasyastra mukti shriya no diksham nacha satkryam nacha puruscharjam managikshate mancho yam rasanas brigeva falati Shri Krishna nam atmaka. So that Govardhan temple, and we can also mention, as we mentioned maybe just last week, that Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he didn't want so many temples. He was very cautious about that, but he particularly mentioned Govardhan as one place where it would be good for Gurudev to establish a temple, because it is so central to our conception. And so Gurudev, that was one of the first places he did establish a temple. But he wasn't, as you heard Gurudev explain, he wasn't planning on establishing deity worship there. He just wanted it primarily to be a shelter for the devotees. But then what happens when they were preparing the land in some way, they were plowing the land or something like that, and they came across this Shila, and a fairly big Shila also, for those of you who've seen it. It was very unexpected, and they saw that Shila had been worshipped before. They saw some marks on there that Shila had been worshipped before. And so because that Shila, he appeared there out of his own will, then Gurudev established that deity. And we also heard a very sweet pastime, that very mystical. There was before they had the installation of that deity, that Govardhan Shila, it was sitting for some days in some place. And there was some local girl who was coming every day and making some simple food offering, like some little 8-year-old girl, something like that. And Gurudev observed this. And then on the day when they had, the official ceremony, inaugurating the worship of the Govardhan Shila in that place, then Gurudev called for that girl and invited her to make the first offering, like some little 8-year-old village girl. It's so perfect, because it's very exemplary of the Govardhan mood. Like any other deity, you'd have to have a Brahmin priest who's had 3 showers and chanted so many mantras, etc. But some little 8-year-old village girl who may not be so clean, they invited her to come and make the first offering there. Oh, that is the special mood of Govardhan. So we are praying for the shelter of Govardhan on this special day. Very happy to be here with all of you. I see there's a few others who have been joining us. Rajarama is here, tuning in from Budapest, around the corner, Dandavad. And also Govindanandini, I think this is Brazilian Govindanandini, who's here. And Suvasini Didi from Ireland. We have another friend of Chintamani, Rohit. We have Elena, who I think is tuning in for the first time. Welcome, Lena. And we have Rukmini from Florida, Alachua, and also Nanga Krishna Prabhu from Tijuana. So we're very happy to have you all with us on this special day. Does anyone here want to add anything or ask anything, any comment? Or shall we close there for today? Maybe Lena, do you want to introduce yourself? I think this is the first time you're joining us. Okay, maybe not.
Actually, it's Leela Maduri Dhanavat.
Oh wow, Leela Maduri. Hi.
Yeah,
That's so nice to have you with us.
thank you. Yeah, it's nice to be here.
Are you in Santa Cruz?
Yeah, I'm still in Santa Cruz.
Okay.
So,
okay. Good.
Yeah.
And how's your son?
He's doing well. Yeah, he's doing online school, and he just got back from a trip to Yosemite with his grandparents.
Okay. He's a very special boy.
I agree. Where are you?
I'm in Hungary right now.
Oh, wow. What's that?
I'm in Hungary next to a city called Szeged. I cannot pronounce it, but and we were just in Budapest for the weekend. We had a nice program on Saturday. The whole COVID thing is becoming more intensified now, so it's a bit more difficult to have meetings now. They've imposed a curfew, and they've closed some places again, starting from last week, and other stuff, So it was becoming more relaxed. Now it's becoming a bit more closed. We're planning to do some more Zoom online meetings for the community here. But anyway, everybody is safe and well and trying to stay inspired. So we're all okay.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like that's happening worldwide.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay, well, Chinmoy Prabhu, should we stop there for today? Do you want to add anything you want to share?
It's funny because we just watched a video this Saturday of Srila Sridhar Maharaj where he talks about the worship of Govardhan Shila. And just how really merciful Krishna is, because we can worship Krishna and all he says for Govardhan Shila is tulsi and water. So like you were saying, very simple. And anything we are taking, we can offer also Govardhan Shila.
Can I add something, Vishakha Didi?
Sorry, what did you say, Prabhu?
I said, can I add something?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, Gurudev always mentioned it's heart to heart. See, he said it's not Vidhi Marg, it's spontaneous. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's our.
Yes, that's very much the mood of Govardhan.
Yeah, I was Gurudev actually, when he purchased 2 places in Vrindavan and Govardhan. Fool, I didn't know nothing, but I was able to connect with Gurudev, and we used to go every day out different places. Yeah, Gurudev was so amazing. I still remember Purnananda Prabhu went somewhere and Gurudev had so much affection. He was like a blind man. Purnananda, Purnananda. We're looking for Purnananda Prabhu.
Oh, are you talking about it was like 92 or something when Gurudev was looking for the lands in Govardhan. That's right. I heard about that.
Yeah, I happened to be there. I didn't know actually who Gurudev was and nothing, but I was lucky to be there. And
that's very fortunate.
Yeah, very. Gurudev so sweet. See, I forget, but you represent him well. I've been here, so I don't know. I don't read so much. I don't have so many qualifications, but I was lucky there. I was after San Jose temple closed, so I was there in Navdweep. Then I went with Gurudev. Gurudev went. We all went in actually train from Havda to. Yeah.
Wow, you're very, very fortunate you could be a part of that journey with Gurudev.
Yeah, so sweet, so lucky. I didn't know nothing, but I just hung in there. So it was actually amazing. Yeah. Venezuelan devotees, Revtinath Prabhu was there. There were 18-20 Venezuelan devotees and American devotees. So I happened to be there. I didn't know not much. I was so attached to Srila Guru Maharaj Prabhupada because I didn't know nothing. I read Search for Shri Krishna and then it just sucked me in. So I've been just hanging around. Sometimes I can't tell how to see Gurudev, because we pray we are Rupanugas, we are aspiring Rupanugas, then other things come in. So we are exclusive, aspiring to be exclusive Rupanugas. So I was listening to Goswami Maharaj asking Srila Guru Maharaj, what is Rupanuga Dhara? And then Guru Maharaj explaining so beautifully, so nicely. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, our Dandavat pranams and humble affection to all of you. Wishing you all the best for the upcoming week. Hopefully we can all meet again next week. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Saraswati ki Jai, all the assembled devotees and sincere seekers ki Jai, Chinmoy Prabhu ki Jai, Jai Shri Govardhan Leela ki Jai, Shri Govardhan Puja Mahotsav ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Jai Shri Vishakha Devi Dasi ki. Jai.